If rumours are to be believed, by the end of the year we're going to see Nintendo release a mini-sized version of the SNES. In the first of 2 videos I'm going to share with you what I think will end up on it. Released at the end of 2016, the NES Classic Mini was one of the most in-demand pieces of gaming hardware in recent memory. A shortage of stock, combined with a massive demand for the tiny retro console, meant that this repackaging of the Nintendo Entertainment System fetched high prices in the second-hand market. Less than half a year later, Nintendo quietly announced that the system would be discontinued, followed by reports just a few weeks later stating that Nintendo would follow up the success of this device with a new Classic Mini based version of their 16-bit system, the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. So what games are going to be included? Well, we don't actually know yet, but based on what games appeared on the NES Classic Mini, as well as previous Virtual Console releases and a little bit of guessing, I've come up with 30 games that I think will show up on this system. In this 2-part series I'm going to be sharing my thoughts, but I'd also love to hear your thoughts on whether you agree or not and what games that you think will end up on this little mini system. Before I start, I think it's safe to say that we won't see any games that use the Super FX chip like Star Fox or Yoshi's Islands. Now, these games have never found their way onto any sort of Virtual Console service, likely due to legal issues surrounding the Super FX chip itself, so I doubt they're going to show up here. So with that said, here are the first 15 games on my list in no particular order. First up, and it's an absolute no-brainer. Super Mario World was the SNES's launch game, one of the best releases out of the entire console's library, and it wouldn't be a Nintendo system without Super Mario, right? Being that the NES Classic Mini featured Ghosts and Goblins, I think it only makes sense for the third game in the series to be here as well. It's just as rock hard as the original game, so it's an entry that will definitely be there to challenge the hardcore. Pilot Wings is a Nintendo series that needs a lot more love, but its debut is not only another SNES launch title, but an excellent game in its own right. Its inclusion would also add a little more variety and hopefully introduce this series to players that may have missed it. Final Fantasy ended up on the NES Classic Mini, so why shouldn't the series' first 16-bit appearance? Final Fantasy IV, otherwise known originally as Final Fantasy II, is a fine JRPG indeed, and was truly the point where Square's beloved series turned epic. Super C was definitely the wrong Contra game to appear on the NES Classic Mini, but here's a chance to rectify that by putting Contra 3 The Alien Wars in the mix. One of the greatest run and gunners around, it would be a sublime game in this collection. Despite Rare being a Microsoft developer for the last decade and a half, that hasn't stopped Donkey Kong Country and its 2 sequels appearing on Nintendo systems via the Virtual Console service. There's no reason it shouldn't be on the SNES Mini, especially as it's a popular platformer. The Super Nintendo had some fine shooters, and Axelay is a particularly good example of one. Another showcase of the system's Mode 7 capabilities, Konami's shooter constantly kept you guessing with many varied levels, while wowing you with incredible graphics and sound. Super Punch-Out, the 16-bit entry in the series, is nowhere near as popular as the original NES entry, but it is arguably the better game, being an improved version of the original Super Punch-Out arcade machine. Loaded with great looking characters and retaining the awesome gameplay of the original, it just deserves to be on this list. The NES Classic Mini was host to the first 2 of Simon Belmont's adventures, and Super Castlevania 4 just seems like a shoo-in. It's a great showcase of Mode 7 and an awesome action platformer with fantastic gameplay and great music. Kirby is another mainstay of Nintendo products, and I cannot think of a better game to showcase the pink blob than Kirby Superstar. It is more than just a collection of new Kirby minigames, also including some substantial platforming games in there as well. The SNES Mini wouldn't be complete without a Mega Man game, and Mega Man X is my pick of the bunch. The other X games have featured on previous virtual consoles despite featuring Capcom's CX4 enhancement chip. Assuming that the SNES Mini won't feature games with chips in, apart from those that use the DSP chip like Pilot Wings and Mario Kart, this seems like a logical choice. Plus, it's arguably one of the best Mega Man games ever made. We are assuming of course that Final Fantasy will be coming to the SNES Mini, but why not Final Fantasy Mystic Quest as a long shot? This was a JRPG created especially for Western audiences, where the genre hadn't quite caught on. It's a pretty decent JRPG for beginners and had some cracking music as well. If you're gonna have Donkey Kong Country, you might as well have its sequel, Diddy's Kong Quest. It's more simian themed platforming fun, and it's absolutely full of secret areas to discover. You also can't have the SNES Mini without Street Fighter 2, but honestly I don't want to see more than one version of Capcom's game on this collection. So let's keep it to Super Street Fighter 2, the most advanced version of Street Fighter 2 to hit the 16-bit systems. For some, it'll be enough of an excuse to buy the system by itself. We finished the first half of my SNES Mini selections with a game that simply has to be included. The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. For me, it's the pinnacle of 2D Zelda games and an essential game for any Nintendo fan. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this and want more, you can click this icon to subscribe, this icon to support me financially via Patreon, or these icons to watch more videos from my channel. Why not take a few seconds to answer the question of the week in the comments, or just let me know what you thought of this video. See you next week.